Greetings, nerds. This is Stina Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont. With me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How you doing this Thursday evening?
I'm doing good. I feel very light this Thursday evening because we dropped 3 shows.
Yes, I know. That's 3 shows. It's a lot to like pack in multiple shows in like an hour.
On the same night. They all come like crash banging in. 2 Wednesday night, 1 Thursday night.
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm saying, okay?
Yeah. There's a lot of content out there, and it's trying to stay topical, but also be on top of things. It's like, yeah, that's a lot, but not here to gripe about that. I'm very excited today because I bought my Batman tickets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. They went on sale today. Yeah. I know that like earlier, I guess they had dropped like IMAX sales for like, I think they were doing a preview that Tuesday night for IMAX. But I thought about it and I almost did it, but then I was like, man, it's gonna be kind of hard for 3 hours on a work night. But and I was like, well, I'm going to see it opening weekend anyway, so I just held off and got my tickets today since they went on sale.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the bat and the cat.
Yep. And I keep dropping all these things, and I'm just like, okay, keep moving. I'm just waiting for the film now.
Yeah, definitely. Other things to look forward to, and talking about how content just keeps coming, and so that these franchises can remain topical. It was announced earlier this week that Obi-Wan is coming to Disney Plus on May 25th, 2022.
Yep.
So that May, we're going to get Doctor Strange 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to get Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And unlike another show we're going to talk about later tonight, I am looking forward to Obi-Wan.
I am too.
I listened to enough Jedi Council, whatever you want to call it, Star Wars geek talk. I don't understand half of it. However, I do understand like how this story could work. I understand the major players. I'm familiar with these characters. So I actually have an invested interest to see what they do with it. So yeah, May. Star Wars will return in May. We don't know. Well, no, we're gonna go into that later, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean it's great. I mean, I know a lot of fans are very aware of this, but for those who aren't. So yeah, this is like set 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. And so Obi-Wan is watching over Luke on Tatooine, and of course we've gotten confirmation that Hayden Christensen's going to be back, and so we'll have some flashbacks clearly with probably some Clone Wars, and so with Obi-Wan and Anakin. So there's that, and pissed off Darth Vader because he's like, this is still pretty raw after the whole events on Mustafar. So yeah, I'm super stoked about this particular one. Yeah,
definitely. Disney Plus is also, don't forget, Ironheart. Is Ironheart gonna drop like sometime this year?
I can't recall. I think it's next year. I think the character is going to be in Black Panther 2, which I think is supposed to drop. Is it later this year? Assuming they finished all the filming. It's been like start it so many times now.
Yeah.
COVID, and everything. I've kind of lost track of its release date. But Ironheart, the character, is apparently supposed to debut in that film, and then of course the series I think will probably be in 2023.
Nice. Well, we do know that the series is moving forward, even if it's going to come at a later time, as Anthony Ramos from In the Heights and Hamilton has joined the cast. We don't know who he's going to play, but he's going to be featured in that show. Very, very happy to see him.
Yep.
I like that guy. even though I wasn't a huge fan of In the Heights, just as a movie, I'm not talking about the musical itself. The movie, I had a lot of issues with the movie. He still like performed really well. So
yeah, I haven't seen In the Heights, but I do remember him from Hamilton, and he's a great actor.
Little things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see that, and I guess as far as the character, like everything, they're keeping it under wraps. But you know, a lot of internet chatter is that it's sort of like how they use Jonathan Majors with Kang, that level of character. Not saying he's a bad guy, but just that level of character that's very integral to the MCU. So we'll see.
Well, you know, let's not make a comparison to Kang until we get Kang, right?
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Well, we did get Kang, but not really. Oh
yeah.
Man, now I'm just gushing about Loki season finale. Oh, I love that finale. And moving from Disney Plus to Hulu, Futurama is going to get a revival. Okay, so fun fact, Will.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some of Futurama. It never really hit for me. So I'm like neutral on this. But we've never had to talk about Futurama. So were you ever a fan of the show?
I was kind of hit or miss. You know, it was one of those things that if it was on, I watched it, but I wasn't, you know, it wasn't like consistently watched the show. You know, I think I use the memes more than I actually probably in the times I've actually watched it. But you know, but the times I did, I enjoyed it. But yeah, I guess it's been like on again, off again, like bounced around because I think it was on Fox, and then it was on, I think, Comedy Central for a bit, and now it's getting picked up on Hulu. And I think all of the major cast members are coming back except for the voice actor who does Bender. Because and it's not because he wasn't invited. It's just because of contract dispute. They just can't agree on compensation. So for now they're recasting. Well, assuming that they don't come to a deal, then they're going to recast Bender with another voice actor. But everyone else is returning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a continuation of where it left off, correct?
That's my understanding, yeah. So it's like 20 episodes coming to Hulu. Yeah. Okay.
All right. We also have another bit of casting news as Russell Crowe is joining the cast of Kraven the Hunter alongside Aaron Taylor Johnson. But we don't know, do we know his role?
It's got to be Kraven's dad. I mean, because obviously Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing Sergei Kravenov, so I think that's sort of the betting odds out there right now on geek Twitter and stuff. But but you know, so you know, in addition to, I mean, Russell Crowe is just like all over Marvel because of course, you know, he's going to be Zeus in Thor later this year. So
I forgot about that.
Yes, yeah. So he's playing in the MCU and he's playing over in the Sony sandbox.
Ooh, that of course Sony makes it messy.
Yeah.
Hey, Sony just has to make it even messier, but we do have a multiverse, so
we do. So
for right now, that multiverse is in question.
Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah, I was having a back and forth with someone on Twitter about that. They're like, "Well, hey, it can happen. You know, now that we have the open multiverse, we can have Nikolai Kravenov show up with Zeus in the MCU." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you got a point."
Yeah. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy time. And then the last thing is the Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
And did more people realize that than they did that the Golden Globes happened?
By a smidge. by a smidge. The main reason why I put this on here, obviously, is because we are a geek and nerd podcast, and once again, I just have to do the perennial rant about when we have a Oscar-worthy comic book film not getting nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such bullshit that Spider-Man: No Way Home did not get nominated for an Oscar. I think Jimmy Kimmel said it best on his opening monologue. It's like, when did the rule become that Oscar nominations have to be serious films?
I think in like the 90s.
Maybe when they went to when they stretched it out to 10. Well, I guess now the 10 film Best Picture rule is like etched in stone. But I mean, if you're gonna go by that thing and say a film's got to move you, well, we've talked about Spider-Man and how that film had definite points where it evoked emotion and was a well-told story, and it's just
a bit dark at times.
And dark, yeah, exactly. So I mean, it hit all the beats, and it's not unprecedented now. I mean, I know Joaquin Phoenix winning Best Actor for Joker. I mean, so they'll allow it for other categories, but for whatever reason, they just still have this like crazy bar with Best Picture. And I mean, I'm looking at Dune, looking at you, Dune. I mean, okay, I fell asleep in that film. Nominated? It got nominated for Best Picture. It did, but Denis Villeneuve did not get nominated for Best Director.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a crime. That's a crime. Dune. How I wish I loved you more.
I tell you, I fell asleep the first time I watched it. So, and another thing too, it's just like there's all these films that, okay. I mean, again, Jimmy Kimmel, like I said, I think he nailed it. It's like he was like listed off all the best pictures, and he threw in some like just made up shit just to to make the point how out of touch these voters are. So I mean, it's just like, okay, end the rant. I just had to get it off my chest. One day, I'm hopeful that we will have a
popularity concert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's popularity. I mean, but that's just it too. I mean, there have been like best pictures that have been blockbusters. So again, that's like, So
it's a very complicated thing because on one hand, you want to see movies like Spider-Man: No Way Home, Dark Knight back in the day.
Yeah.
Like get its due, get what it should be praised for. And yet I've also seen other award shows where it's way too much on like ticket sales and whatnot, where it's just like, but then that just means like those who have the most money or make the most money, like those who sell, do more, which then the indie stuff gets left behind. So it's all over the place, but I mean, there was a time pre-COVID when I used to always know exactly what was happening with Oscars, Golden Globes, probably have seen 90% of the movies. I don't think I've seen a single. I don't know anymore. I saw Twitter hashtag Oscar nominations. I haven't looked at them at all. I get the impression with some headlines I saw, emphasis on headlines, that both Kristen Dunst and Jesse Plemons, who are married in real life, they both got nominations, which is some kind of like record because they're the married couple. Which is cool, and I'm secretly rooting for them just because I think that's a very cool thing. Plus Jesse Plemons, like Friday Night Lights. Come on, guys, Friday Night Lights.
Yeah. Will Smith got nominated for actor for King Richard, and I watched a little bit of King Richard. I just couldn't get. I don't know. It didn't talk about things that move you. It was okay, but it was like I started it and then I stopped it and I just haven't gotten back to it.
I agree with you. I watched that movie. I still don't understand the hype. I think he's good. I don't understand the hype, but I get this. My feeling is he's likely going to win.
Yeah, I think so.
And I mean, whatever. But I also have nothing to compare it to. So
right. Except for Dune, which is another one that I was like, eh.
Except for Dune, which is Dune. Oh man. I had a lot of Dune thoughts, even though I didn't pay attention to the Oscar nominations, because someone made me return to the Book of Boba Fett this week. Well, you didn't force me. It just so happened like we were light on shows, and I had time to binge The Mandalorian 2.5 because that's what the last few episodes were, and watch the finale of Boba Fett. And I kept thinking about Dune because I'm just like, man, desert. They're talking about spice.
Yeah.
A lot of dry dialogue. A lot of like monsters coming out of the sand and whatnot. Yeah. Dune.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of sand, and it is. I mean, and that's been a knock on Tatooine from the get, which was that it was derivative of Dune. I mean, that's not a new complaint about Star Wars, but I'm very conflicted about this now that we've completed the season of Book of Boba Fett. I'm very conflicted because on the one hand, and we talked about this. I think we made it to the first 2 or 3 episodes before we took a break from it. And it never, as far as Star Wars, it never rose to the level for me of say The Mandalorian or the or Empire. As far as like in my top or Rogue One, as far as using Rogue One as some of the new Star Wars levels. For me, as far as like, oh, I can't miss this, but it wasn't as bad as say Phantom Menace either. It was kind of it fell in a place for me like Solo. Like, why do we? What does this add to the overall universe?
Right.
And why is this a story worth telling? And really, episodes 5 and 6 just drove that point home. As far as with the Mandalorian 2.5, why it seemed, and think about the finale and the line in there with when Cad Bane says, "Boba Fett, what's your angle?" And I kind of feel that same thing with this series. Is like, what's the angle?
Yeah. That's. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people going into this, especially, I will say I'm not very knowledgeable about Star Wars. I've seen the basics. I still haven't seen Solo. I've seen the basics. I understand the basics.
Yeah.
And so I know probably what like the average person knows about this world. And so Boba Fett, because I didn't grow up with the originals, I grew up with more of the prequels. I never knew like, well, why does everyone keep talking about Boba Fett? Like what, huh? And this show was kind of geared to be like, oh, this is going to get fans more on board with this character and why he's so badass. And man, did they not deliver on that at all. I understand looking back why they told this story and why it's called the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
However, I just really don't like 95% of the choices. Even though I like Mando and Grogu, I don't like them being included because now like before, I was very pessimistic about this whole, oh great, Luke Skywalker is here. Oh man, you jumped the Luke too soon. Like, we need stories that aren't connected to Skywalker. And now it's like, okay, Grogu is adorable, but not every story has to be connected to Mando and Grogu. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, like, this set, I mean, I know we've seen it in The Mandalorian, but I don't know. There was some, like I said, 95% of the choices I disagree with.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this doesn't work at all.
Yeah. So because with the episode 4, we get the backstory of Fennec, and again, it's tied back to Mandalorian because we first. Well, yep. I guess at least in live action, that was the first time we were introduced to that character. Of course, folks who were part of the animated world knew these characters very well. But we are introduced to them, and then the episode ends with "We need muscle," and they played the theme for the Mandalorian, so you knew it was coming. And given that it's a shared universe at this point, we knew Mando would show up in some form or fashion. I think, like you said, the reason why they call it the Book of Boba Fett, really, it was that just it was just that. I mean, it was here's a chapter in this shared universe of characters and
characters of Mandalorians.
Of Mandalorians. And it was I think part of the reason why and I would hope I'd be interested to see if Filoni or Favreau confirm this at some point, but just from a narrative point of just planning out a season, because they were we can't blame this on the writers' room, because they were the writers' room of different people and different or different directors coming in, like we saw with the sequel trilogy, where you had the whole JJ had his vision. Well, JJ didn't have a vision. He was just like, I'm just going to just do a one-off, and then Ryan came in, and then JJ came back in and did all what Ryan did. Favreau clearly had a structure that he was planning, and it seems that this structure that he's planning is a shared universe with these characters, and I think they intentionally put 5 and 6 in there to basically save time for when the full season 3 drops of Mandalorian comes about. They're just sort of filling in the gaps so that they can just get right to the story whenever season 3 drops. At some point, I guess it'll have to be next year when it eventually comes on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. Because I mean that just seems to the way that the whole arc of this season played out, at least seems to be that was why they made the narrative choice that they did to spend 95% of an episode in the middle of the season on Mando, and then spend that 5% of just tying it back to episode 4 of this season of hiring Mando to be the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean, it was also we have to get somebody with the Force to come and save the day at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know. I understand why Mando and Grogu showed up. I get it. But I don't know. I'm at a loss. I had a thought and then I forgot it. But,
well, yeah. So I mean, what did you think? I mean, of the. I mean, given that you were, basically movie Star Wars fan, you didn't read all the novels and the whole backstory with animated pieces. So when you first saw Cad Bane and his introduction into it, I mean,
he was fine, but he wasn't utilized hardly. He appeared. Mm-hmm. The episode was named after him in a way, because wasn't it called a stranger in the desert or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he appears at the very end and kills the marshal. And then we see him in the next episode, and there's this history.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why can't we get more invested with this guy? Like, we've had this discussion before with other shows. Half of like, it's one thing to have a fully formed hero, but you have to have that fully formed antagonist to really draw a viewer in. And that's another thing that they didn't do. They didn't give us a villain. The Scooby Gang. I mean, Fennec is cool. However, I feel like they like gave us a lot of promises about Fennec and her relationship with Boba that left unfulfilled. Like he spent more time with Mando in the finale than Fennec.
Yeah, he did.
and I don't know. They were supposed to, like, it was kind of set up like she and him were going to be the duo. And they were going to do this together, and then she went off and did her thing, and he hired a replacement called Mando, which not a bad idea, but still replacement nonetheless. And then all of the other side characters, I didn't care about the town. I didn't care about any of this stuff. The only reason why people light up when they see Mando and Grogu is because there's actual investment in those two. And there is some investment in Boba Fett because we've now seen him for a while, and Fennec as well. But everyone else, it's just like, okay. Yeah. And the last bit that really pissed me off in the finale was I didn't like how there was that one scene where Grogu shows up at that shop, that mechanic shop. And because the whole time I'm just like, okay.
Did you think Luke Skywalker was showing up again?
To save the day at the very end. Like, yeah. that should have been left on the editing floor. They should have just had it, like, had her show up in the middle of that fight, and you're not really understanding why, and then all of a sudden you see Grogu. Like, that would have been so much more impactful.
Yeah, I agree, because at first when I did see the X-Wing show up, I was like, you can't go to that well again. You just can't.
Oh, like, come on, Will. We know writers, they love going to their wells of well.
I see what you did there.
No well is off limits, okay?
But I think it would have been a definite better cut to like have them show up and Grogu show up that way, because then, especially given the way that they ended episode 6 with the whole choice, which it is another thing that is a very like head thumping thing with this with Star Wars and this whole Jedi attachment thing, and you would think Luke would have learned from his just recent experiences of making a kid make this choice between mom or dad. I mean, come on. I was just like, no, and I get where they were trying to go and just trying to tie this point in history to what we see down the road in the sequels, as far as why Grogu was not at the Jedi Temple when Ben Solo when Luke tried to
but they didn't have to do it so soon. They rushed it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could have easily waited for the 3rd season of Mando, and maybe we'll go back to that point where maybe he will, maybe that will be a situation where he does go back and get training, because they do like parallels in this universe, and obviously the parallels with Grogu leaving to go help Mando was the same parallel that Luke had in Empire. Yeah,
it's not that I'm curious about Mando season 3. I'm just like, okay, what are you going to do here? Because the last time I got invested in this, there was a big dramatic finale. A choice was made. It broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then within the span of, 8 episodes, 7 episodes, you rewrote history.
Yeah.
You undid it.
Yeah.
And that's really the only reason why you got to watch Book of Boba Fett, is so that you understand at the beginning of Mandalorian season 3 why Grogu is around.
Yeah.
Which kind of pisses me off, because I'm just like, we had a long discussion about that finale and why it was so emotionally, like, it wasn't just the action. There was an emotional thing that happened. Yeah. that pulled you in, and you understood why.
Mm-hmm.
And it left new possibilities. But now father and son are reunited. It's beautiful, but it's also like, really?
Yeah. Because you're right. I mean, they did set up so many things in that finale, mm-hmm. where removing his helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then of course now Book of Boba Fett, we get. You're right. You have to watch this series now, or you don't. You could, if a lot of Mandalorian fans could be just like, okay, I know episodes 5 and 6 are the ones that I want to watch, and the rest of the stuff I don't need to bother with it.
Yeah. Yeah. But isn't that weird? How those choices that were made in Mando's season 2 finale.
Mm-hmm.
Are immediately rewritten in Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Consequences all play out, and you're just sitting here like, okay. I mean, it's one thing to include these characters and have this shared universe, but to then also have story points that directly tie into their story in this other show.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have made those choices.
Yeah. You're right. I really hadn't thought about how soon they undid the beautiful story that they told.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, and so now that now that they've done that, and of course there's still, I mean, that part of the things they did set up in this, but again, is we're here, we're supposed to be talking about Boba Fett, but we ended up talking about Mandalorian, but which is again, I think, an indictment on it proves our point. Why was this series necessary to begin with? But yeah, I mean, it does beg the question. We do know that the whole thing with the Darksaber and the challenge, and and he's going to have to go to the caves of Mandalore to reclaim his Mandalorian status, and so it set up so many things as far as for this this Mandalorian, that whenever with the finale, with when Boba and Fennec are in Mos Espa and saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if we're cut out for this," and I'm like, "Please God, I hope there's not a season 2," because I think season 1 was enough. They it maybe it's okay in Mandalorian season 3 if they do a time jump, which they probably will, to where to see where Boba and Fennec are as far as their criminal syndicate is on Tatooine. I think I'm fine with that if it's a story reason why we have to go back to Tatooine in Mando season 3. Do it that way. I don't think there's enough story there, because you had in your notes, was there enough story to support a 7-season arc, 7-episode season, and clearly there was not, because they had to go back to the Mando.
Yeah, it was weird. It felt as though the writers got bored with their own writing. Mm-hmm. Like, let's go into this other cabinet where we have all of Mando's stuff, and let's go back to that. Yeah. Let's pull out those and tie up some loose ends there, so we can set us up on this new trajectory.
Yeah. Speaking of new trajectory,
I don't know if there's necessarily going to be a season 2. Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be another book.
Okay.
Book of something.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
I think that's what they're gonna start doing.
Yeah.
But these books, I'm gonna be very skeptical about them.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be like, well, I just finished a season of Mandalorian. Are you gonna undo everything?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm obligated to watch it, but just
Yeah.
call it Mandalorian, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Or Kyle Banth, because with that end credit, he's in the back the tank. So that's just going to be their way of just since they fired Gina Carano, he'll just take over her role in the Knights of the Republic show, whatever. What are those shows that they had like announced at the Disney Investor Day a few years ago?
Oh yeah. Just yesterday
they announced a bunch of other stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, they announced so many things, and few things actually happened. But well, I think that's it for Boba Fett tea. We will return to this discussion once Mando comes back in his own show with Grogu. And on that note, we're going to transfer over to the penultimate episode of Peacemaker. This was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite of the season.
No.
It was good. I appreciate how they did surprise me when he finally killed his dad.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. But it wasn't jarring. Like, it was like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We almost have to do that so that we can, like, this isn't about this character always being around. It would just be too much of what we've seen before. So I like that choice that they made there. And mainly they did that so that it would feel less like, okay, this is just all set up to get all of the pieces in the place where we need to have this big finale that's just going to be probably 25 minutes of a fight sequence. But I don't care. You want to know why I don't care? Because Vigilante is freaking awesome and he's fucking hilarious.
Yes.
So freaking funny. I just I know that there's been talk about potentially season 2, not necessarily with Peacemaker, but maybe another character. If they give me a Vigilante season, I don't know if I will love it, because part of the reason why Vigilante works is because it's just Freddy and John Cena's chemistry.
Yeah.
They are so good on screen together.
They really are. And considering that he came in after they fired the first actor who wasn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
So Freddie Stroma came in, cold, like, hey, we're recasting this. I mean, scenes had already been shot with the other person.
Wow.
And yeah. And so he came in after, having to do the quarantine and then having to jump right in, and just, that was, I'm so glad things didn't work out with the other person they had cast, because you're right. I mean, there's just such magic between Stroma and John Cena. I mean, it's just that's part of what's making this show work so well, to where I'm like, damn, this show is like knocked off Doom Patrol for me as far as like my go-to DC now, which is, which I did not ever expect that. Whenever, I mean, we were like, should we cover this? And then now it's just like, you were so disappointed in me because I hadn't had a chance to watch episode 6 last week.
Well, I think that what happened is we both, it's not that we hated the Suicide Squad. It's just that we weren't as hyped as others were about the movie. But we did both agree that Peacemaker stood out as a character.
We did.
And so I'm not that surprised that this series is working. I am surprised that James Gunn hasn't like gone overboard. He's walking a very thin line. I feel like I'm broken record because I feel like this is what I said last week, but he's not he's not gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
And really what stood out to me this week, besides Vigilante, is just like John Cena worked in the ensemble as like an ensemble character. Now he's leading a show. And what was the true testament is like all of the characters around him have to work. And surprisingly, these characters, like I'm actually curious of where they're going to end up.
Yeah.
Did I cry when Myrn died this episode? No, I didn't. I thought just like, okay, I get it. Okay. Yeah. One leader has to go so that Chris can step up and lead the Scooby Gang. But the characters themselves, I like how they're banter with each other.
Yeah.
And they do have all their like very small arcs going on that don't distract too much from Peacemaker's story.
No.
But
they all complement each other, actually.
They all complement, yeah. So it's very night and day when we were just talking about Boba Fett, where we didn't really care about any of the secondary characters because we didn't really know, like, there wasn't enough time, but they are spending just enough time with these characters and these characters with Peacemaker to make him feel more three-dimensional and like them as a dysfunctional family feel more connected to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was because, when I think about the moments between Harcourt and Adebayo, and the thing about team, and the whole discussion they had, where it's just like, and where Adebayo was like, feeling a part of the team, and Harcourt was just, was a very transactional relationship as far as like what a team member and keep having someone's back looks out for. But at the end of the day, they come out of different places, but you're right, they're all working together as a cohesive, dysfunctional but cohesive unit.
Yeah. They all are they all have their own relationship with Peacemaker. Mm-hmm. and it's all like they all are contributing to him fulfilling this like idea of finally becoming the hero instead of being the bad guy. And the self-actualization, that is what's going on. Another character that we have not talked about enough, Judo Master.
Yes.
Leprechaun boy. The fact that Judo Master, like, we see a lot of Judo Master, and then we see none of Judo Master, and then he comes back, and then he's just always around. Like, you know what? Maybe the next season will be Judo Master. I don't know. Yeah,
I think that would, hunting Judo, Vigilante, and Cena and Chris hunting down the Judo Master. That actually, with Economos at the driver's seat of the van.
Yeah. And eagerly just like on the lookout forever.
Yeah. Whereas, where there's never a wrong time to jam, right?
No, never.
Yeah. But speaking of no wrong time, it is, one of the things you noted at the beginning of our discussion about Peacemaker and the jarring. Mm-hmm. So the thing that did jar me in this episode was we finally, we've been all throughout from day one, we've been getting backstory of Chris and his brother, mm-hmm. and him and Chris being somehow responsible for what happened to Keith.
Right.
But what was jarring to me was, we have that very, Cena starts out again, the man is like super talented, playing, Home Sweet Home, Motley Crue, and all, and his whole take on it, and we see, and just the anguish of what's going on, and then you jump to like the theme. I was just like that. I was like, because I was like so like engaged in the moment there with the sadness about what the anguish that he's feeling, and then we go to the memorable opening credits, and I was just like, it threw me. I was like, I wasn't expecting that emotional like twist, jerking with my emotions like that, James.
Yeah, I don't know why. I've heard other people have similar responses to that whole sequence. I didn't think anything of it.
Well, yeah, because you're dead inside. I know that.
I know. It's a serious medical condition. I'm trying to get a doctor to hear me out on it. However, but yeah, I almost wish that they would have, like, if I had to nitpick, I feel like I don't feel like the flashback was that like, oh my God, that's what happened, just because of how they did the breadcrumbs leading up to it.
Yeah.
I almost feel like if we knew less going into it, that whole thing would be much more like, oh my God.
Yeah. See, it wasn't the flashbacks. It was really, it was more.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
it was the after, like the present day remembering to the reality. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the sequence you're talking about, but
yeah. Because I mean, we knew what a piece of shit Augie was, and and it just basically confirmed again why he he had to go, but and why that moment was so cathartic for Chris, and like you said, I mean, was at some point I was just like, Vigilante's gonna step in and do it on his behalf.
I had the same thought.
Yeah.
And then I had another thought. I was like, Eagly's gonna come in.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of,
did. I mean, Vigilante almost did do that. But it had to be Peacemaker.
Yeah.
It had to be Peacemaker to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of Eagly, and I love the callback they had way back to episode 1 with do you believe in miracles, and with the Eagly and Chris, and that moment with Adebayo seeing it, and she's like having to call her wife, like, I don't know what I just saw, but that was a nice moment too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I think that we can only say so many nice things.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have the end of the show on a high note with I was telling someone, it's so nice when a show just that you didn't really think you were going to or you're wondering about just comes up and just knocks you on your ass, and you just feel like, damn, this is a really good show. It's just like, I'm definitely having that with Peacemaker, and another one that I shared with you this week is Reacher, which I think another one that just completely like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. So maybe next week we can go a little bit deeper into that one.
Why are you giving me more shows to watch?
I'm not giving you more shows to watch. I'm just giving you
one episode of television to watch, and now all of a sudden you're like, Sarah, you gotta watch Reacher. you gotta watch our Hawk. He's all grown up now, okay?
He is grown up. He is definitely grown up.
Watch Reacher. Maybe I will. You're not the first one to say good things about Reacher. However, you know how I feel about these types of shows.
I do. I recognize that. So
maybe my alley, and I'm not. But hey, there's not a lot. I still need to watch Euphoria season 2. I haven't watched a single episode.
Wow.
But I also haven't been spoiled. There's one thing I've been spoiled with that I know that's going to happen. But other than that, I've been pretty good. So I almost am holding out for like it to completely end and then just do a binge.
Okay. Yeah, I know you did that. I know you did that with Succession. So
no, I binged the first 2 episodes. Like I'm talking a full season binge.
Oh, full season. Okay.
Completely different, Will.
Yeah, completely different. Yeah, true. But I am really surprised to hear that about. So what is your latest binge for thing of interest?
I haven't even been watching Billions. Billions is back. I didn't realize Billions was back, and then I saw like something come up on Hulu, and I'm like, oh, Oh,
Wow. Okay.
but I
You-
have a reason, and
I think I know your reasons. I will tease you offline.
well, no, it's just weird because Axe isn't in this season.
Okay.
So Axe isn't in this season, and I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay, but whatever. I've been watching This Is Us.
Okay.
I've been watching some reality TV shows. I've been doing a lot of light watching. I don't know. I've just been watching what I want to watch.
Hey, that's fine. Hey, yeah, that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah. But on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.